Hello. Here is our first matchup. I alluded earlier to it before my internet decided to take a hike. Sorry again about that, guys. We have Iris versus Battra. Again, I've revised his stats for Gamera Kaiju. Instead of being in the several hundred tons, he's around 130,000 tons. But again, you are free to use, how do I say this? You are not bound by my rules or how I'm approaching this. I'm just explaining why, where we go from here, whatever verdict or argument or feat I call upon. This is kind of I was just explaining the inner workings of my brain. This is just how I function. You are free to be yourself. You're free to be like, I don't care if you're going to say he's 130,000 tons. I'm going to treat him like he's the little several hundred ton kaiju he is. I just wanted to avoid that because I want to make this tournament fair, but also because I honestly don't think official stats like those would ever factor into the actual battles if the filmmakers made these fights become a reality. I also get tired of hearing the whole pro Godzilla kaiju side position, which is Godzilla literally flicks Gamera, and because Gamera's 120 tons, he explodes like a hot balloon or something. So alright, so Iris versus Battra. Let's get into it. Iris, the Ryuseko mutated Gyaos. Some would call him a demon. Most certainly some characters in the movie thought he was, and he very well could be. The Gamera trilogy lore, the mythology behind it kind of gets into places by the third movie where it's a little... Well, I personally think they just started making things up by the third movie. But hey, it's all made up, right? So whether or not Iris is actually some real demon or a mutated Gyaos that's just simply put trying to become more powerful, it's, I guess I'll leave it up to you guys to interpret. But Iris to me is one of the most dangerous kaiju in this tournament. He also has a number of flaws, which I will address here shortly. First, why do I think Iris is one of the most dangerous kaiju in this tournament? For starters, during the epic dogfight, and I invite everyone to analyze this entire sequence in the movie. As a filmmaker, I absolutely grew up just watching this on my VHS and pausing and trying to go frame by frame to figure out how they made this. But anyway, in the dogfight, Gamera turns into his spinning UFO form and he attempts to saw Iris in half. He's trying to literally turn Iris into a shish kebab. And I feel like this is a really good indicator of Iris being more durable than some would think. For starters, he has Gamera attempting to saw him in half and failing, mind you. Iris is completely unscathed here. But also, Gamera's jets, his jet propulsion here, they're not even singeing his hide. So I think Iris is way more durable than originally credited. And when it comes to Iris, we of course have to talk about sonic beams. But before we do that, let's take a look at Super Gyaos here. Super Gyaos has this extremely powerful projectile, sonic beam or sonic cutter. And when used on Gamera, we find that it actually bounces off Gamera's shell. Gamera, remember, was designed specifically to neutralize the Gyaos, so it made sense that his shell would be designed to be able to withstand not only Gyaos sonic attacks, but thermal based attacks or, you know, even blunt force trauma. But here we see that Gyaos' sonic beam clearly causes injuries to other parts of Gamera's body. We see him during the movie cut Gamera's hand with the sonic cutter, and here when it strikes Gamera in his temple. But by the time of G3, things do change. Here in this slide, we could see a shot of the Hyper Gyaos sonic beam cutting a skyscraper in half from a vertical angle. It does this instantly. And here's another shot to show it crumbling. And I'm sharing this because by the time Gamera 3 comes around, Gamera's body, not just his shell, but his body seems to be immune to sonic-based attacks. Or at least sonic-based attacks from the Gyaos. But when Iris uses his sonic beam, it actually does something quite impressive. It's kind of hard to see in the shot, so I apologize, but it does indeed penetrate Gamera's shell and makes him bleed. So at this point, Iris's sonic beams are a force to be reckoned with. We also need to talk about Iris's tentacles. The boy's got reach. Like, I believe they are 1,199 meters long. And he's got 4 of these gargantuanly long tentacles. So that's also one reason why I, factored that in when trying to think about how to revise these guys' stats. Because personally, I feel like since Iris is 99 meters tall, he's about as tall as Heisei Godzilla. But he has these massive tentacles and he's got 4 of them. Man, that should make him way heavier, right? Also, with this reach, you would think Iris has, he can pretty much attack from a distance unabated, right? He could do so unchallenged. The problem is, and I said I would do this earlier, but Iris has a massive weakness. I don't think he's that smart. I mean, the guy's goal in life is to fuse with a human, Ayana, and in doing so, they'll become a perfect organism. If Iris successfully managed to complete his fusion with Ayana, Iris would reach a point where he can change his chromosomes, which means he could literally alter his DNA at will, which the possibilities for that are endless. So Iris's quest to become a god, however, you think would be his top priority. But instead of, landing at Kyoto Station where Ayana was at the time, Iris decides to land on the other side of the city and slowly walks towards her. He knows where she is, and he's still, obviously we know this is the writer trying to buy time, but hey, we gotta go with what we have, right? I feel like this could be forgiven. But then when Gamera shows up, Iris, despite his long, distance advantage, his reach with those tentacles, he still lets Gamera waltz up and just smack him around. And Iris really just takes it until Ayana is like, dude, kill him already. And here's a shot of, to get an idea of just how lethal Iris is in close quarters combat. We can see his scythe blade going through not only Gamera's armored chest, but out his back shell. This is pretty dangerous stuff right here. And when we get to Gamera, I do go into more detail explaining how Gamera is more durable than some might think. Gamera kaiju get a bad rep when it comes to feats, when it comes to power, especially when you're pitting them up against Godzilla kaiju. And it's fair game because there are some Gamera kaiju that are pretty bad, pretty weak. There are some that are fragile glass cannons. But not Gamera. He's actually pretty dang durable. And so the fact that Iris can just punch through him with his blade, just stab right through him like a hot blade through butter, is quite impressive. Here's another cool shot. And again, I just gotta take a moment and just respect the hell out of the filmmakers here. This entire shot, everything. I love it. Here's Iris after having Gamera plunging his claw into his gut. Holy crap. Iris actually manages to get his scythe through Gamera's hand, effectively pinning Gamera up against the walls of Kyoto Station. And here comes Iris's, arguably Iris's most dangerous ability, is the fact that he can absorb your DNA and begin to absorb your powers and abilities. He can copy them. As we'll see here, Iris then begins to form Gamera's own fireballs, and he's getting ready to use them up against Gamera. Of course, little does Iris know, you can't threaten Gamera with what he wants. Trying to threaten Gamera with fire is a big mistake, but Iris didn't really know that, so I don't blame him for that. Before I get to Battra, I just want to once again emphasize that Iris had his guts ripped out and he was still fighting, and it seems like if Gamera had not used his plasma fist, or I forget, I've been calling it plasma fist for years, but it's called something else. You guys can enlighten me if you remember. But had Gamera not killed Iris right there, it seems like Iris would have survived despite having his guts yanked out. So pretty graphic stuff, but Iris's pain tolerance is commendable. Before I get to Battra, I'm going to read some of your guys' comments. John and Sean seem to be having a pretty good discussion here. So I say continue, guys. I will read it more when I can. King of the Monsters mentioned, while true that authors may have higher priorities in their storytelling, if a story has a fight, how that fight is written is a big deal. Comic fights destroy planets, stars, galaxy, dimensions, etc. I do, yep. I don't really disagree with any of this, so yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, John, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to Sean. I was asking Kaiju to John, I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't realize you were trying to get my attention. John, I think your question towards me, or what you were saying, what you were directing at me, starts with this comment. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? You said the thing is, we can't just look at a feat at just face value. There are factors behind them. I mean, we can't say Goku is just universal just because we only see the statement of the narrator and Clash tell it all. It requires calculations and measurements because cosmology matters, and Toriyama's canon depictions of what Universe 7 scales at shows it's massive compared to a single universe. I actually have no problem with this, John, especially since when I talk about feats, I do take calculations and measurements into account. I mean, I don't know if you've seen my previous videos where I've gone over how powerful, say, legendary Godzilla's atomic breath is when it, like, drilled into the Earth's core. I provided calculations and such. I actually, when I think about empirical feats, I do see a correlation, or maybe not a direct correlation, with calculations and measurements, but the fact that they are empirical means you can calculate them and you can measure them, and I feel like that is a good sign that your feat needs to be empirically based, because if it's not empirically based, it's going to be very hard to calculate and measure these feats accordingly, or at least be as close to a, you know, approximate as can be. But I kind of like what you said there. I don't really have much of a problem with it. All right, so I'm going to continue on. Battra, one of my favorites from the Heisei Godzilla roster. Here we see him blasting at Godzilla during their war at sea. And one of Battra Larvae's just best performances here, I think, is the fact that he was able to just swim right at Godzilla and just take him straight down to the ocean floor. I mean, to be able to do this to a powerhouse like Heisei Godzilla, to me, is a clear sign that Battra, he's not playing. You don't underestimate him. You don't mess with him. If you come to fight Battra, you better bring your A game. Here's a shot of him using his prism beams, which in an earlier shot could take out an entire battalion of tanks. What makes Battra also menacing in close quarters combat is the fact that he can electrocute you. He can release bolts of energy. Here he uses it to further help destabilize a tower that he knocks over. He also uses it during their underwater skirmish, during Battra and Godzilla's underwater battle. And it's enough to make even Godzilla reel back and think twice about fighting Battra up close. One of Godzilla and Battra's most amazing durability feats is how they were consumed by an underwater volcano, and then this would eventually, in Godzilla's case, take him through the mantra of the Earth, or the mantle of the Earth, and there, you're exposed to not just heat but tremendous pressures. It's arguably Godzilla's greatest durability feat in the entire Heisei series run, but yeah, here's Battra taking it like a champ as well. Guys, I think you're going to be excited about this next part, even though I'm not personally counting the manga, because I feel like the manga characters are a different beast in themselves, but I couldn't resist. I wanted to share some of this with you all. In the manga, Battra weaponizes his tail. It ends in these hook-like claws, and we can see in the center there's a pretty decently sized horn there. And he uses it to not only stab Godzilla in the neck, but also shock him. I thought this was really cool. Let me know if you guys want to see more of these. But I thought, man, it's a shame that the Heisei Godzilla manga series didn't receive an English release, because these stories are nuts. Here's the best one of them all, though. This is Battra just pulling an iris, just taking his horn and putting it right through Godzilla's chest, out his back. You could even see it slicing apart some of Godzilla's fins. It's insane, man. I do wish we got to see this in the movie. I'll give a moment, let you guys take a look at that. I'm gonna adjust something real quick. See if there's something I can do. I just realized there's something I could revise, possibly. Yeah, I'm just noticing the chat here that I have on screen is way behind, so I don't know, not sure why it's not updating it. It's just showing the top chats, but let's see if I can revise that. Hang on. Kind of want things to be shown up to date. But perhaps that's just not going to happen. No, it's the same link and it doesn't really change anything. It's a bummer. Maybe I'll have to look into that later. All right, I figured it out. There we go. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Anyway, I thought you guys would be interested in seeing some scans from the Heisei Godzilla manga series. There's more to come, but again, I don't really factor those in because the manga kaiju are they do a lot of different things for different reasons. And this is strictly live action, so let's keep at it. Now, here's a mystery, and I honestly don't know for sure. But do you guys think Battra can interchangeably transform from his larva state to his flying form at will? Like, do you think if he turns into his flying form that he's stuck in it? Or do you think he can transform back? I think he can transform back and forth if he wants to. But I don't entirely know for sure. So feel free to chime in and let me know what you guys think about that. In his flying form, Battra maintains his prism beams. He can fire them from his eyes like before. They're pretty powerful. I mean, they can blast apart. Hang on, I got some lag coming here on my end. They could blast apart Fukuoka. Not is it Fukuoka Bridge? No, the Yokohama Bridge. There it is. Just a couple blasts and the entire bridge is just absolutely leveled. It does give Godzilla some trouble, but honestly, they're not really... As far as Heisei Kaiju beam power goes, I don't really think they're much to write home about, but Battra makes up for this by firing them in quick succession. He'll spam them like hell. Battra's shortcoming comes in the form of him getting bitten in the neck by Godzilla and then eventually dying after Godzilla, not only after losing blood, but Godzilla at point blank shoots him in the face with his atomic breath. Now, I say this is a shortcoming. Let me clarify what I mean by that. There is no shame in getting beaten by Godzilla. But the problem here is, as far as bite strength goes, I'd imagine Godzilla is pretty strong. He's got some scary levels of bite strength. I mean, he's Godzilla for Mothra's sake. But I don't really think that there's anything like... There's nothing like... we don't really see Godzilla bite something that we know is like insanely durable or nigh indestructible to make us think that this is a bigger deal than it is. Again, if you disagree or maybe there's something Godzilla did previously that I can't remember, please share that in the comments so we can get to it. But I will point out, though, that this was a major factor in how I determined who I think would win this fight. As I mentioned previously, Iris was able to not only take his scythe blade, but like just stab it through Gamera's entire body. He was able to accurately aim for a smaller part of Gamera, which was his hand, and successfully get it, like stab it with pinpoint precision. Here's the thing. Battra is going to be extremely aggressive. He's territorial. He's not afraid to get close and personal. How I see this fight going down is Iris is just going to stand there kind of like a dimwit or an idjit. I'm throwing that out there again. He's just going to stand there and Battra is just going to bombard him. He's just going to blast him, right? And I think Iris is durable enough to take it. And he might retaliate. I could see him retaliate maybe with a sonic beam or so, and that would definitely trip Battra up, but I don't think it's enough that it's going to stop Battra from taking this in close quarters combat where he is going to just he's going to try and wreck, he's going to try and take Iris down and just massacre him up close and personal. I don't know how long this sort of back and forth will be, but I do think the moment Iris takes things seriously, I think he's going to successfully put a blade through Battra's face, and at that point it's lights out for Battra. My verdict here is I think Iris is going to win this battle.